Ladies and gentlemen, today we're here to discuss another top 10 video that's hopefully not as intense as the last one was. Today we're here to discuss the top 10 most underrated champions in the game, part 2. But before we do that, I actually want to give you guys a bit of my thought processing on how I actually came up with this list. In the last video, I included champions like Shocker as well as Masakre, which are champions that you can sort of argue are not underrated champions. And this is sort of also the same case when it comes to this list, where enough of the community knows how good or valuable a champion is, but still chooses not to use them, and you'll pretty much see what I'm talking about when we get there, because I myself don't really know if certain champions even belong on this list. Some of them are not champions that Yori would make a video on, which he only makes videos on anti-meta champions, but the main reason for putting certain champions on this list is because I want it to be a list of champions that I think are 1. Underrated, and 2. Champions that I would actually recommend you to take to rank 5. Now this might change in the next video based on you guys' opinions down below in the comment section, so please let me know whether it should be just underrated champions or underrated champions that I would recommend you to take to rank 5. But anyways, enough of the Japanese, and let's start off with spot number 10. Spot number 10, we have a champion that's a beast, literally, and that champion of course is Dago by night. And this is one of the champions that Yori would never make a video on, who is an absolute beast when it comes to rupture damage, especially when he's in his curse of lycanthropy. He's a very simple champion to play with a very simple playstyle. You can pretty much play him normally, or you can play him as a Valkyrie type champion, where you're only hitting the opponent's block and dealing rupture damage. And since you gain a lot of power from your howls, you'll pretty much be able to get up to the SP2. And speaking of the SP2, he has one of the most satisfying as well as hard-hitting SP2s in the game, which is a spoiler for the video that was supposed to win the poll, and this special attack pretty much just obliterates the opponent's health in the form of rupture damage. MSD actually made a rank 3 video showcasing him, so I would actually recommend you to check that out if you have any doubts on why this champion is absolutely insane. But of course, with him being on this list, it pretty much means he's not seen as much when it comes to places like Battlegrounds and places like War. Coming in at spot number 9, the Hood. A very old champion that's been in the game for I don't even know how long, and one that has a pretty dedicated fan base which just talk about him endlessly. But besides that, he's not really a champion that I see around a lot. The Hood is a very powerful burst type champion that relies on building a certain amount of stacks and then bursting them with the heavy attack. He also has some mechanics like invisibility, which pretty much helps you get some easier openings, as well as stagger and fade steal, which can be very crucial in a lot of matchups. He's a very old relic of the past that still stands strong, and in my opinion, we're all just waiting for him to drop as a 7-star. Spot number 8, we have a champion that was sort of popular when they first dropped, but after some time, they just dropped off in terms of usage. And that champion of course is Cassie Lang, and there's probably a lot of people that still use her in War, but for most of the time, you don't really see her around. Cassie Lang is one of the champions that are just so well designed and have such a perfect kit that it feels like the champion doesn't really have any flaws at all. But of course, because this is MCOC, there's champions who have flaws but do something so well that they'll almost always be chosen either way. I feel like people don't look at her simply because there's so many other busted champions out there, but hopefully with this video we get to highlight how good she is. She's mainly a power sting damage dealer with a shrinking mechanic that allows you to pretty much not take damage at all, and she also has some big yellow numbers when it comes to the SP2. I pretty much just consider her as a more updated Ant-Man with a lot more abilities and a lot more things that make her a bit more valuable than he is. But generally, I understand people not really wanting to use her. Power Sting champions in this game, you sort of have to worry about the AI, whether it's gonna throw the special or not, and your Power Stings might just fall off too fast, and yeah. Spot number 7, we have one of the more nicer champions in the game, since they're Canadian and all. And that champion is Mr. Canada or Guardian. Guardian is a champion. I feel like we all know how good he is, but it's kind of sad how often people don't look at him. The man has one of the highest damage dealing SP2s in the game. Once you build up those force field charges, the SP2 is just... But of course, damage isn't the only reason why you should consider him. He has a lot of little things that make him a very desirable champion. One is a perfect block as well as auto block, which can pretty much save you in case you mess up. Another is him being able to power drain the opponent with the 4th light attack. He also can crit, which is good against certain mutant champions. And with the awakened ability, he pretty much just becomes an absolute beast in terms of resistances. But I do feel like not a lot of people play him, and so I kinda wanna shout out my boy in this one. Spot number 6 is a champion that just got buffed, and please hear me out on this one. That champion is Gladiator. Now I'm not 100% sure if he's underrated or not, but I see so many different opinions on him. Every time I hear people saying, oh, he's a beast, he's so good, there's also a handful of people saying, nah, that buff did nothing, he's still bad, he sucks, mediator, which confuses me a lot because this champion is actually pretty good. Now granted, a Summoner's Choice champion is a special title, but I sort of do feel like Gladiator lives up to such a title. Now I will make a video on Gladiator alone, showing you guys that he's not actually as bad as people say he is, because from what I've seen of him, he's actually really good. He's one of the more interesting champions in the game in my opinion, with a unique playstyle that allows him to sort of dance around while the opponent is throwing the special attack. I do understand that most of the damage that he deals depends on the opponent's special attacks, but even in scenarios where the opponent's special isn't that long, he's still a great champion to have, and I feel like people are not really seeing that. Moving on to spot number 5, we have Red Guardian. And for this one, I would personally never take him to rank 5. Maybe it's because of the design, maybe because it's just a dude with a shield or something. Me personally, nah. But still, I do see how good of a champion he is, and I do see how good he might be for your account. Now granted, I have a lot of science champions and there's a lot that already do and serve the same purpose, but for someone who's missing a champion with as much utility as he does, then I would recommend you to take him up. He has a lot of utility in the form of being buff immune, being able to block unblockable attacks and stunning the opponent, having a slow with the SP1, and the most important part, the damage. Now that he got buffed, his damage is really good, and you can actually keep up his debuffs long enough, so now you can pretty much just see him as a super comfy champion. But like I said, nah, I'm good, man. I would never do that. Spot number 4 is another champion that I don't see too much, but this might just be because people don't have her yet. But of course, that champion is Chill. Her playstyle revolves around doing a bunch of heavy attacks to inflict as much bleed debuffs as possible, but other than that, she also has a lot of utility. She has a cleanse that can purify any debuff that actually lands on her. She has a grit passive that ignores unstoppable effects. She has a tranquilize that pretty much reduces defensive ability accuracy. And lastly, she has a lot of ways to actually reduce the opponent's attack. She's definitely a very good champion with a lot of utility, but somehow I feel like she's just Jabari Panther too. Of course, Jabari can nuke down fights faster than she can, but it is kinda sus how they're both so similar. But putting that to the side, she's a very good as well as very reliable champion, which I'm kinda shocked at how not a lot of people use her. Spot number 3 is a champion I would never put on this list if I didn't get him as a 7-star, and that champion is Wong. Wong is just, oh my goodness. Now before I got him and actually tested him, I thought he was meh, kinda mid. But after testing him, oh my goodness, this man is insane. He has the damage, and to top it all off, he has sustainability like no other. Someone out there was able to solo Necropolis with Wong only on the team, and that alone should tell you how good this champion is. Now granted, he is pretty slow when it comes to building his charges up and stuff, but once you do fully ramp up, Oh my. His playstyle revolves around gaining certain amounts of spells with the SP1 and charging the heavy attack to then gain power and launching the SP2 to deal massive amounts of damage, and the SP2 can actually heal you for a very good amount. Now it doesn't really sound all that impressive, but trust me guys, use him in a long fight and you'll see how good he is. Spot number 2, we have another relic of the past that still shines and stands strong to this day, and that champion is Symbiote Supreme. Now I do understand that there's a lot more Mystic champions that have sort of shifted the meta more than he has, but the fact that this champion can still keep up means that he's just that good. He has damage like no other and his bleeds are very good. He also has staggers, which pretty much makes him good against Maestro. The only thing I don't really like about him is his passive power gain, but given his rotation as well as his playstyle, it pretty much just makes sense. He also has power drain, which can help you finish fights in a much more comfy manner. And the most important thing, the dude has drip, man. Oh my, black and red is always going to be a hard hitting combo, except for when it's Venom the Duck. Cause look at him and Vox, man, they just look so good. I think he did win a poll that I made a while ago, but I never made that video. So hopefully you guys vote for him so that we can go more in depth about him. The dude just looks so cool, man. Oh, and at spot number 1, the champion that I think is the most underrated in this list is Stealth Suit Spiderman. And I know a champion like Symbiote Supreme might actually be more underused than him, but he's here for the fact that he's so good while also being so underrated. At rank 5, I've seen this dude nuke down fights in like 26 seconds. The damage is just so much, man. It's just crazy. If they ever release this man as a 7-star, they're out of their minds, man. He's one of the best champions to bring when it comes to evade matchups. And like I said before, the damage, man. Just the damage. Of course, he does have some utility when it comes to his 3 different cartridges. One of them, of course, is to deal more damage. The other is to inflict slow. And the last one actually makes him good for power gain matchups. Unfortunately, he does need synergies to sort of fully max out his debuffs, but does it really matter when he's finishing fights that fast? But that is pretty much it for the top 10 most underrated champions in the game. Let me know down in the comments who you would have wanted to see in the list, who doesn't actually belong on this list, and what you think in general. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Make sure to join my Discord group, the link will be down in the description. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace!
Putain. Arrête, voilà, arrête, mais...
C'est peut-être un ascenseur.
T'es sérieux, toi?
C'est là-haut, c'est ça?